voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Set of rules for the entire state. And it should be one set of rules for the entire nation. And that is the role of the federal government and national leadership. And it is lacking. The federal government should put one position in place and coordinate it with the states. If the federal government isn't going to do what it should do, then the states have to try their best, right? And the best way is for me not only to have a uniform policy within the state of New York, but to the extent you can, cooperate with surrounding states so you all have a common set of practices, right? I don't want to close down bars in New York, but Connecticut leaves the bars open. Why? Because then many people will get in their car and they'll drive to Connecticut to go to a bar, which is the last thing we want. Now we have people who are drinking and driving. It makes no sense. I don't want to have one set of rules here and a different set of rules in New Jersey, because then I close down the bars, you'll get in the car, you'll drive to New Jersey. It makes no sense. Well, then get the states to coordinate themselves. Yes, very hard to do. Luckily, we have set a template where our regional states work together. Many of you came to our regional meeting on marijuana laws. And I have a good relationship that I've developed with the surrounding governors. So we have actually deployed that here. And I just did a call with Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey and Governor Ned Lamont of Connecticut, and we are adopting the same policies. So there is no benefit to try to shop New York versus Connecticut versus New Jersey. There will be no more gatherings of 50-plus people. So if you were hoping to plan a graduation party, you can't do it in the state of New York, you can't go do it in the state of New Jersey, and you can't do it in the state of Connecticut. Casinos, we all have casinos. If I close my casinos, but New Jersey keeps their casinos open, we're going to have the same problem. All casinos will be closed effective 8 p.m. tonight, and they will stay closed until further notice. On all these closings, they are all until further notice, and hopefully I can coordinate with the other governors so we can have the same opening period, just the way we had the same closing period. Gyms are closed effective 8 p.m. tonight. I know that's a specific hardship for the people in this room because I can all see you are in masterful shape, buff even. There are other ways to exercise. Theaters closing at 8 o'clock tonight until further notice. Any bar or restaurant closes at 8 o'clock tonight However, there is a silver lining for these establishments because we're also very aware of the economic consequences for these establishments. So the State Liquor Authority is going to change its rules. They'll have guidance up by 5 p.m. this evening that will allow bars, restaurants, distilleries to sell their products off premises. So whatever you could order in the bar or restaurant or distillery or winery, you can purchase through takeout. And we hope that goes a long way towards alleviating any economic hardship. Stay home and order from your favorite restaurant, order from your favorite bar, order from your favorite winery, order from whatever establishment that you were thinking of patronizing. Just order it and stay at home. And again, the State Liquor Authority will change their rules to allow that. It's not currently allowed. We will only allow it during this period of closure, but I think it will help those businesses. As you know, we've done a lot of work with the wineries and distilleries to grow that industry in New York, and I want to make sure we protect them. Now everybody is at home, and they're at home with their kids. My kids are a little older, but I remember the old days when you're in the house with a number of young kids. The house can get very small very quickly. The kids can get very rambunctious very quickly. We're going to waive all park fees in all state parks, local parks, county parks. So you want to get out of the house? Great. Go to the park. The weather's changing. Take a walk. Enjoy your family. And do it in an environment that is not a dense environment, which is exactly what the parks provide. Other actions: all local governments must reduce their workforce by 50% minimum. I'm directing all local governments to allow their non-essential personnel to stay home, work from home, with a 50% minimum. Local government can go higher than 50%, but it must be a 50% minimum. Work from home, which is the same thing I'm asking private businesses. If we can ask private businesses to do that, government, I think, leads by example. So not just for New York State government, which will do this also, all local governments, non-essential people work from home, and a minimum of 50% of the workforce must stay at home. Second, I'm directing local governments to make sure that all their local police departments and emergency management services are supplied with masks, surgical masks. You have police officers who are encountering people in all different circumstances, EMS workers who traditionally wear masks, police officers who traditionally do not. But I was at the New Rochelle drive-through testing center the other day. And you know, if you're a police officer, you're walking up to a car, you're stopping a driver, they roll down the window. By definition, you're within more than 6 feet. You don't know who you're talking to. People are positive who don't even know that they're positive. I want all the police officers who are showing, all first responders, are showing great courage, getting up and going out and doing their job every day. I want them to know that we understand the situation they're putting themselves in, and we're providing the necessary precautions.
It is Tuesday, the 17th of March of 2020, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Oh my! St. Patty's Day officially, so we are not going to throw the green food dye in the chowder. Who do you think we are? Yeah, green. Don't do it. Don't do it. Hey, looks like we are in a full-blown pandemic. For some reason, Trump has gotten serious. Maybe he has finally acknowledged the seriousness of the situation beyond his own pocketbook, because that's all we ever heard about, was how he had to hold up tests so Jared's company could make money and then he would make money. Bribing German scientists to make a vaccine only for the U.S. and then, we can make a profit. Pretty much holding it over the heads of the rest of the world. Oh, you want a kid? You got to come through us and pay us our vig. So it turns out mobsters running the show don't really run the show very well, even though the show just keeps going on. I keep telling everybody, the coronavirus doesn't give an F about your geopolitics or your tax cuts. So, Trump went out in front of the world yesterday and pretty much tanked the economy. Also, they got to stop having him come out. Every time he talks, the stock market takes a dump. The largest one-day fall. In fact, it's lower than what it was in 87. And everybody back then thought, this isn't so bad. Well, I wouldn't say everybody. The ones jumping out of windows didn't think it was hunky-dory. They thought it was pretty darn bad. And yeah, there were people jumping out of windows in 87. But by and large, a lot of people thought, I don't know, what's different? It seems bad to me yesterday, seems bad to me today, and it is definitely going to be bad for me tomorrow and for the next few decades until we have this one coming up. Anyway, the general economy tanking is not a good thing, especially when it impacts the world. And apparently, even Republicans are finding out now that mobsters running the show don't really know how to run the show, even though the show keeps going on. Okay, that's reality TV for you. All right, we made our bed. We're going to lie in it. And a lot of us are going to be able to say, I told you so, between feverish coughs. Millions will die? Could be. I sure hope not. I am a little disappointed. Young friends of my late son, some are questioning whether any of this is real. Because, Kate Brown pretty much shut down the state yesterday, and a lot of people of a certain age are living paycheck to paycheck, and now they don't have a paycheck because the state is being shut down, and we got to blame the governor, Kate Brown. She's so evil. Doesn't she know how people live? Yeah, she does. And I got to tell you, there's a bigger world out there, kiddo. And the bigger world's coming to get you. And you can't deny it, and it's not Kate Brown's fault. I mean, these kids, and I call them kids because anybody under the age of 45 to me now is a kid, are a bit up in arms about how can this be real? I know how governments work. Well, do you? Because people are dying. World Health Organization says, we got to test. And Donald Trump is keeping people from being tested, well, at least up to now, because he wanted to make a vig. So we now hear that Mike Pence has been meeting in secret with Republicans and others to fix the message. Fix the message. Remember, Pence was a highly paid liar and shill for big tobacco. The industry that says, I have no idea that nicotine was addictive. Yeah, those people. The ones that made nicotine crack by adding ammonia to it. That's how it started. Before there was crack, there were the tobacco makers putting ammonia to make tobacco into tobacco crack. Yeah, highly addictive. So these are the people that we're dealing with, highly paid shills and liars, fixing a message about coronavirus that doesn't really care about your fixed message, doesn't care about your geopolitics, and certainly doesn't care about your tax cuts. People think that they're going to be saved and protected from this. It will find you. It will. And we need to take responsibility. Now, the Bay Area has a shelter in place for, I believe, did I see this right? 6 weeks? Is that right? Regardless, considerable time to shelter in place. Now, that does not mean that you stay in your place and don't go to your doctor's appointment. You can go to your doctor's appointment, and you can even go get food. So the shelter in place is really just to stop people from going out and possibly carrying that virus to somebody else. The less people moving about, the less chance of transmission. That's all that means. And if we can stay in our domiciles, by and large, for a couple of weeks, that helps. They talk about flattening the curve. I'll tell you one great way to flatten the curve, and that would be, I'm just a romantic now, but that would be to jail. A lot of these Trump aficionados, sycophants, Vichy collaborators, including Trump himself, if we were able to do so. We might as well use this pandemic as an excuse. It's not stopping Trump and Bill Barr or Mitch McConnell even. And we have stories about all three of those and how they are using disaster capitalism to pretty much ram through their policies and at the same time make a lot of money. Wow. Mobsters running everything. What could go wrong? What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Well, at the top, that was New York Governor Cuomo saying that we need a federal response as he announced widespread closings with 2 fellow governors. That's right. It's a regional thing and it's a national thing, and we better start wrapping our heads around that. On the rest of the menu, Moscow Mitch McConnell continues working on packing the courts as the nation focuses on coronavirus. I told you, disaster capitalism, the shock doctrine, is in play. Government regulators bust another crooked bank. Well, at least we have some government regulators are doing the good work, in spite of how Trump has tried to purge them all. And Pacific Gas and Electric won court approval to raise $23 billion to help pay its bills over the destructive California wildfires. They were fined so much they had to declare bankruptcy, and now they're going to pay everybody pennies on the dollar, because that's the way business works. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where Bill Barr moved to drop charges against Mueller indicted Russians, but says the reason for the cover-up of the Russian attack is a secret. And a German artisanal ice cream parlor is asking customers to buy coupons for ice cream futures instead of hoarding toilet paper. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the rightish of the page is our chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you will notice the link to our Patreon page. Please do become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio. Your recurring contribution, which could be, how about the price of a espresso type coffee drink sent our way once a month, and we are able to stretch those dollars beyond compare because we're quantum mechanics, and we are able to stretch them on the subatomic level so that we are able to pay our bills and get the needed machinery that we need over all this period of time that we have been broadcasting 24/7, 365 Resistance Radio. 9 years now. Officially, our 9th year anniversary was just a couple of days ago. I will say that we officially went 24/7, 365 in April, but we have been a internet radio concern for 9 years now and counting, and it has been because of you and your generosity, and we thank you truly from the depths, the deep recesses of our loving hearts. Thank you. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, it is so simple. You just go to @NetrootsRadio. Tom takes care of that, and we thank Tom for doing so. I, of course, take care of @JusticePutnam, and I also post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes about 10 minutes before showtime, and then get that linked up on social media, except for Facebook, because Zuckerberg is censoring liberal political speech at the behest of Trump cultists and, I don't know, their Vichy collaborators. Yeah, they're all in a team, a tag team, and they're decimating liberal voices on Facebook. And unfortunately, I am one of them. But we have a social media director. Thank you, Kelly. She does yeoman work picking up the slack when I get slapped down out there in public. Ho, 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 boy. The Trump bros think that we're stupid like them. They think we're dimwits. No, we planned this 9 years ago because we're Resistance Radio. And there's a history of resistance, and we read the history. If you would like to follow the show on Twitter, do so at Cookbook West. And most importantly, pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, and really wherever podcasts can be found. Now, in my little diary where I was ranting about being suspended from Facebook because of what was said in a tiny, I say it's 1,200. It's not even 1,200. It's like 1,125. 1,125 people in this tiny little community page in Ashland, Oregon. Private, uncensored, and apparently because I said the F word, or probably I said F Trump, F Vlad, these comments from weeks and weeks and weeks ago are being reported by the Trump cultist Vichy collaborator tag teams. And I've been getting a series of suspensions. One will end and another one will pick up. That will end and then another one will pick up. That will end and then a couple of days will pass by and then an even greater amount of time is imposed upon me in terms of a suspension. I suspect that when this month-long one is ended, there's going to be another month-long, or is it going to go to 6 months suspension? It is so bad that I am getting announcements, even while being suspended, from posts from years and years ago where photographs are being filtered because they're too violent for people to see. And what are the violent pictures they're filtering? Yeah, brown kids and icebox baby gulags, because that might be construed by someone as being violent. Yeah, it is. But you know what is not filtered on that Ashland Peeps page or anywhere else? Anti-abortion bloody pics of fetuses on the sidewalk. Apparently that does not violate community standards, and that does not need to be filtered for anyone to make an extra click to see that photograph. But seeing brown kids in cages, oh no, we got to filter that. One good thing that came out of it is that it looks like at least 2 members, maybe 1, of the tag team that recently showed up in the Ashland Peeps uncensored page and then started getting liberal voices suspended because of harassment. They had only been there for hours, and they started in on their misogyny and their bigotry and their racism and their homophobia, and they're basically just kick the libs because it's fun. The threats of being shot for treason apparently is not a violent threat to Zuckerberg. But calling these people effing Vichy collaborating dick wavers for waving their dicks in everybody's face is considered bullying and harassment. And I've been getting a series of them, of those suspensions because of it. Well, they cyber-stalked me, which I wish Zuckerberg and his Fox censors would understand, and came into the Rogue River community page where, right there in the opening, when it says, we don't talk politics here. So keep it on the low, once maybe we'll let you get away with it. But when you've gotten fair warning, stop. That's right there. It's right there in the little sort of like terms of use for the little community page. This one is much larger in terms of raw numbers, by the way. So, of course, when I had fulfilled my week-long suspension, as perpetrated by these 2 perpetrators, I decided, well, I'm not going to confront these folks directly. And I guess I'll have to censor myself and not use the F word, especially directed at them or any Trump person. And I posted, as I mentioned yesterday, just some music, some science articles, etc. So when these fellows cyber-stalked me to the Rogue River non-political page and started going off on me about being, what was it? Sucking Bernie's cock socialist? Yeah, I haven't even made my mind up on who I want. They keep calling me a Bernie brat. Come on, please. Regardless, I just politely mentioned, hey, we don't talk politics here. And then I got the, you liberal snowflake, Well, the administrator made a public announcement on the page that we don't talk politics in that page. And he'd been getting a lot of complaints, and I never sent a complaint. I just told this one perpetrator that, you're on a page where they don't talk politics. Maybe you ought to, pipe down a little bit. I didn't say that, but, just, come on. Be a good neighbor. So the administrator took those posts down that were political in nature from this fellow, and could be fellows, and I haven't seen a post since, so I don't know if this fellow has been suspended from Facebook for a period of time or just from that group. I have noticed that this one has not been posting anywhere else that I can discern. The other one has. I thought that maybe he might get caught up in it, but he's sly. He knows how to do the memes with screenshots and whatnot. Apparently that does not get picked up by the Fox Facebook censors or the Facebook Fox censors. How? Regardless, Facebook hired Fox people to be, the censors to determine what is proper speech. And it seems like liberal speech gets suspended and right-wing, violent, homophobic, racist bigotry does not. Interesting, isn't it? Well, we better get into what we have curated for you today. We put ourselves in a bubble, and then I start going off on this stupid thing about Facebook. The most important point I wanted to make about the whole Facebook deal and why I am involved in it and why I'm apparently upset, because I am. Because some people said, why are you even on Facebook? You're supporting fascists. Yeah, I understand that. But the real reason is because my dead son and I DM'd, direct message there, a lot. And I know there's a way to save it and put it somewhere else. But for me right now, it's the equivalent of hearing his voice on an answering machine. And I cannot give that up yet. I know I could transfer the tape to another answering machine. I know it's easy, but there's just something about the immediacy of when we would be, quote, speaking with each other, typing on that Facebook platform. So it's just hard. That's why I'm upset. I'm not upset because these idiots are potentially impacting the business aspect of this radio station. I'm upset because they are threatening me from losing those direct messages between my dead son and myself. That is why I'm involved in this. All right, that stated, why don't we get into this first offering here? Because when there's disaster capitalism happening, you can bet there's a disaster happening at the same time. Dan Desai-Martin of the American Independent brings us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Senate Majority Leader Moscow Mitch McConnell gave the Senate a long weekend despite the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, but he is still laser-focused on packing the courts with far-right Federalist Society judges, and sometimes worse than the Federalist Society. McConnell is currently engaged in a continuing lobbying effort started during the Obama administration, by the way. Funny how that works. Urging judges appointed by past Republican presidents to retire soon so Trump can nominate the replacements. McConnell and conservative allies are reminding judges that if Trump loses in November, it could be 8 years before another Republican sits in the White House. And that's a lot of work for McConnell if he happens to still be there, and I'm not sure he will. And it's curious that they are finally admitting that Trump might lose, and they have to make the plans now, just in case. And they know that Trump's going to make their job a lot harder. And if there's a Democratic president for 8 years, and the Republicans somehow have some kind of power and control, it's going to be a lot of work to bat down all those judge nominations by a Democratic president. They're going to do it, you know. They're going to try to keep any Democratic candidate or any Democratic president from nominating any judge on any level. This has been an ongoing lobbying effort by Moscow Mitch McConnell since Obama took office. Now, this new report arrives just a few days after McConnell left D.C. without addressing an emergency bill passed by the House to help Americans deal with the fallout from the coronavirus outbreak. Because do they care about the American people? Of course not. We're just in the way. The House passed the bill by an overwhelming 363 to 40 majority, but the legislation cannot move forward until Moscow Mitch McConnell decides to return to Congress. While he won't rush to help Americans deal with a health pandemic, McConnell has been an outspoken supporter of packing the courts with conservative justices, even if justices who are notably unqualified or have a history of discriminatory remarks. And I would say, well, notably, yeah. They're going to put those front and center before everybody else, especially qualified judges. McConnell even changed Senate norms and traditions in order to ram through judges to fill vacancies more quickly. For instance, McConnell reduced the amount of time the Senate is allowed to debate judges from 30 hours to just 2. From 30 hours to 2 hours. In just 2019, the McConnell-led Senate confirmed 3 judges rated not qualified by the American Bar Association. For comparison, former President Barack Obama never appointed a single judge with an unqualified rating. In total, Trump has nominated and the Senate has confirmed 51 judges to the nation's appeals courts, meaning Trump-appointed judges now make up a quarter of the appeals court judges. The coup goes on. The attack from Russia continues. Do we resist this? Do we stop it? We better. Phil Matera of the DC Report brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. For the past 3 years, Wells Fargo has been pilloried for having created millions of bogus accounts to extract unauthorized fees from its customers. Now it seems Wells may not have been the only financial institution to engage in this type of fraud. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, wow, Elizabeth Warren's old office, despite having been somewhat defanged, I would say somewhat, by the Trump administration, has just filed suit against Fifth Third Bank for similar behavior. Based in Cincinnati, Fifth Third is a large regional bank with branches in 10 states and total assets of about $170 billion with a B. They're just a small regional bank now. According to the CFPB's complaint, the problem at Fifth Third arose when it, like Wells Fargo, imposed overly aggressive cross-selling targets on its employees, causing them to create bogus accounts to meet those goals. What does it say about society when you're tasked with this type of task by your boss, and what you do is something patently illegal? Oh, well, I'm just going to make some bogus accounts to be able to meet these quotas. Just remember that back in the Nuremberg trials that people went through, 2 things. Ignorance was no excuse. Being a good German was no excuse. Just doing your job was no excuse. Of course, the leaders that ordered those orders that you really had no excuse for, following. In some cases, they were dealt with in a rather harsh way, which usually meant not breathing ever again. The agency is asking a federal court to order Fifth Third to stop these practices and pay damages and penalties. The bank issued a press release denying the allegations and vowing to fight the lawsuit vigorously, just like Wells Fargo did. And just like Wells Fargo, they will be fined a tremendous amount of money, and maybe even their CEO will have to retire with a golden parachute to some island in the Bahamas. Of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Pacific Gas and Electric won court approval to raise $23 billion SB with a B to help pay its bills over destructive California wildfires after Governor Gavin Newsom dropped his opposition to a financing package designed to help the nation's largest utility get out of bankruptcy. The milestone, reached during an unusual court hearing held by phone, moves PG&E closer to its goal of emerging from one of the most complex bankruptcy cases in U.S. history by June 30th. Newsom has said he fears PG&E is taking on too much debt to be able to afford an estimated $40 billion in equipment upgrades needed to reduce the chances of its electricity grid igniting destructive wildfires in the future, just like they did most recently. The utility's outdated system triggered a series of catastrophic wildfires in 2017 and 2018 that killed so many people and burned so many homes and businesses that the company had to file for bankruptcy to escape the massive penalties, because businesses can do that. And apparently, when you come back into business, maybe those bankruptcy charges are just forgotten and you don't need to pay the fines anymore. Will they change their name from PG&E to something else to hide the fact that they're running from the law? With the help of the law, apparently. The recent volatility in the financial markets caused by the coronavirus pandemic apparently softened Newsom's stance after PG&E lined up commitments from investors promising to buy up $12 billion in company stock. People often talk tough when there is a level playing field, but in circumstances, almost all people want to make a deal. Eric Snyder, a bankruptcy lawyer who has been following PG&E's case, said, Newsom has unusual leverage over PG&E because the company also needs state approval of its bankruptcy plan to qualify for coverage from a wildfire insurance fund that California created last year. Now, reflecting the complexity of the situation, the judge conceded that the nuances of PG&E's financing package are, quote, beyond my understanding, end quote, and put his faith in the parties who put it together that it's now the best option available. The unusual admission came during an extraordinary hearing that had to be held by phone because the courthouse was closed to try to help limit the spread of the coronavirus. Well, that brings us to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, Caught. One of the things I fear may work against Seberg, directed by Benedict Andrews and starring Kristen Stewart, is that people may not know who Jean Seberg was. The movie gives you the relevant highlights of her life and career, and does so subtly, which is the way it does everything, but it helps to know these things first before going to see the film. If you know Jean Seberg, you probably know her from Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless, which this movie starts after, when Seberg is a star in both France and America, and on the rise. However, Seberg the movie takes more thematic cues from Jean Seberg's first iconic turn, that as Joan of Arc and Otto Preminger's adaptation of Bernard Shaw's Saint Joan. As Joan is caught between England and France and pays with her life for her talents, her convictions, and her ability to inspire, Jean, to paraphrase a great line from the film, confronts the war against black people in America only to get caught in the crossfire. This movie could do so many things wrong, but does so many things well. This parallel could be heavy-handed. It isn't. This film could be another white person wins the civil rights era. It is not. It is a painful return to a time before our surveilled society, before we understood that our government was accessing all forms of our communications. And Andrews, Hitchcock-like, tells the story in his shot strategy, with Stewart constantly seen through lenses, through windows, in reflection, her image mediated and fractured, as Jean Seberg is doggedly recorded by both Hollywood and by the FBI, touching on the celebrity culture side of our loss of privacy. This movie even handles nudity without being gratuitous, because Stewart, in moments of being barely dressed and undressed, reflects how Jean Seberg tries to live a successful, emotional, professional, familial, political, and personally ethical life, complete with moments of strength and stumbles of misjudgment, totally exposed. Seberg is such a smart and thoughtful film. I hope you can catch it. This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
Sweetie, want some fruit?
You have to use the right tool for the job. A power drill is the wrong tool to slice fruit. Just like an antibiotic is the wrong tool to treat viruses, including colds and flu. Antibiotics are only needed for certain bacterial infections. When they aren't needed, antibiotics won't help you, and the side effects could still hurt you. Ask your healthcare professional when an antibiotic is the right tool and when it's not. Visit cdc.gov/antibiotic-use.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
This Civil Liberties Minute, one in a series on the coronavirus, COVID-19, focuses on the plight of people who are or may be locked up. I'm Bill Newman. In responding to this public health crisis, it is essential to plan for the vulnerable population of people who are jailed or imprisoned by the criminal justice system or are detained by ICE. Towards the end of protecting the health of those inside the razor wire and those employees who work there, as well as those who are on the outside, the ACLU of Massachusetts has recommended that state and local law enforcement reduce to the lowest possible number those people who are newly incarcerated. Whenever possible, arrest should be avoided in favor of, for example, when appropriate, discretionary non-enforcement or a civil remedy, or a citation which requires a person to appear in court instead of being immediately arrested. As for the institutions, there must at a minimum be adequate training and education, as well as, of course, medical care and cleaning supplies. And ICE should halt new and unnecessary immigration detentions to limit the spread of the virus in jails and detention centers and to limit the hardship that the virus will cause for immigrant communities. Here's the common denominator. At this time in particular, we should not allow those who are or could be locked up to be out of mind simply because they, for many people, are out of sight. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1890. That was the day that the Executive Council of the American Federation of Labor decided that the Carpenters Union should lead a national campaign for the 8-hour workday. The cry, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will, had been on the lips of working people for more than 20 years. The fight for a fair workday had gained momentum in the mid-1880s. But in 1886, the Haymarket tragedy had taken its toll on the cause. When an unknown person threw a bomb at a workers' rally in Chicago, government officials used it as a pretext to clamp down hard against the labor movement. The decision by the American Federation of Labor to pick back up the call for the 8-hour day revitalized this workers' campaign. The choice of the carpenters to lead the way made sense. As skilled craftsmen, their labor would not be easily replaced. This gave them the leverage to stand up and demand an 8-hour workday. Their president, P.J. McGuire, was also a vocal supporter of reducing the long hours required of so many workers. In 1890, he said, "We are not a narrow, selfish trade organization entirely for ourselves. We have been and always will be ready to do our share in the general labor movement, whether it be to help the poorest or the highest paid worker." That May, 53,000 carpenters from 208 locals took part in 141 strikes. As a result, their actions saw gains in more than 30 cities as they won the 8-hour day. In many more, they won a 9-hour workday. The movement helped to strengthen the Carpenters Union and to continue the fight for better wages, hours, and conditions. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 40 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting a high of around 58 degrees, maybe a little cooler than that, I think. Sunshine and clouds will be mixed, and winds will pick up in a couple of hours out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and will continue so all day, with cloudy skies overnight and a low of about 37, which might be 35, and it might be 38. Tomorrow we are expecting a high of nearly the same, about 56, 57, 58 degrees, mostly cloudy skies early. Then partly cloudy in the afternoon tomorrow with winds light and variable. Pollen is still rated at none. The air quality index is in the good range regionally at 24 parts per million, and the daytime UV index is moderate, ticked down to 3. Barometric pressure is holding steady currently at 29.88 inches. Visibility is down to 4 miles, and relative humidity is at 92%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. London is 56 and mostly cloudy with coronavirus. Paris is 58 and cloudy with even more coronavirus. Rome is 63 and partly cloudy with lots and lots of coronavirus. Kyiv is 46 and mostly cloudy, but you don't get to hear about coronavirus from there. I wonder why. Kabul is 55 and partly cloudy with some coronavirus. Hong Kong is 66 and fair with lots of coronavirus, though not very many new cases. Tokyo is 50 and clear with coronavirus. Sydney, Australia is 61 and fair with coronavirus. San Francisco, California is 42, mostly cloudy with a shelter in place throughout the whole region because of coronavirus. And New York is 44 degrees Fahrenheit with rain, and the state and the other 2 or 3 states around them are closed because of coronavirus. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. And these people purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Bob Brigham of Raw Story brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Donald Trump faced a special counsel investigation into his relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin and was impeached, which is why a decision by Attorney General William Barr will likely garner much criticism. The U.S. Justice Department moved yesterday, Monday, to drop its 2-year-long prosecution of a Russian company charged with orchestrating a social media campaign to interfere in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The stunning reversal came weeks before the case, a spin-off of Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller's probe, was to go to trial. The filing came after the end of business hours. Curious how that works now, isn't it? Assistants to U.S. Attorney Timothy Shea of Washington, D.C., and Assistant Attorney General for National Security John C. Demers cited an unspecified change in the balance of the government's proof due to a classification determination, according to a 9-page filing accompanied by facts under seal. The trial was scheduled to begin on April 6th. Oh, somebody marked it top secret. I wonder why. Prosecutors also cited the failure of the company, Concord Management and Consulting, to comply with trial subpoenas and provide a misleading affidavit by Yevgeny Prigozhin, a co-defendant and the company's founder. Prigozhin is a catering magnate and military contractor known as Putin's chef because of his ties to Vladimir Putin.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Anonymous worker bees at Reuters bring us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A German artisanal ice cream parlor is asking customers to buy coupons instead of hoarding toilet paper to help keep it afloat as the government shut most businesses during the coronavirus pandemic. Rosa Canina, an organic ice cream maker whose 3 Berlin stores were shut on Monday yesterday, said in notices on its windows that it hoped loyal customers would buy vouchers online to help it bridge the next few weeks. The business has been described as a culinary Shangri-La for ice cream gourmets by the Top 10 Berlin website. If I was working there, I'd be an ice cream gourmand. And we would definitely eat into our profits then, wouldn't we? Back to the article. Somehow we will get through this. You buy the ice cream now, and then you can eat it in 2 months, said co-founder Julia Phillips. She urged customers to do whatever they could to support their favorite restaurants and hoped other local businesses would join in selling coupons as well. We call them futures here. Germany is suffering a major economic hit from the coronavirus crisis, with schools shut, more than 6,000 people known to be infected, and 13 dead, and a rapid rise in case numbers, which will mean more people are potentially on the death list now, aren't they? The federal government has loosened insolvency rules that risked forcing companies into declaring bankruptcy while they waited for state aid to arrive. Well, at least Germany knows how to handle it. Too bad we have mobsters running our government. Too bad. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But you do know that Netroots Radio is going to be broadcasting on. In fact, we will meet up tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe, entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie d'un novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.